Okay, this video is going to show you how we are going to look at the X and Y coordinates in Scratch. So just to start things off, I want to make sure that we're clear about a couple of things. As you can see, my cursor is moving around. You can see down here in this bottom right-hand corner of the stage, you see these values for X and Y change. So you can see here if I go across, you see my X value moving. Okay, so to the positive, I'm going to the right. Okay, and decreasing as I go to the left and eventually getting into negative values. Okay, and then if I'm going up and down, same idea. I'm decreasing in my Y value when I'm going down, and when I go up, I'm increasing my Y value. So, but this is the pointer itself. Up in the top right-hand corner, you'll see it kind of faded out here, X and Y values for the cat. So this would be for any sprite that's on our stage. If I were to move our sprite, in that top right-hand corner, our X and Y coordinates have now changed. And you can see those values. Okay, so that could really help you decide, well, where do you want the cat, let's say in this case, start? Where do you want it to end? Where do you want it to glide to? So lots of options there. So to help us with this, let's look at some of our options in motion. We can actually decide to, let's say, well, let's set X to 0. So all I have to do is double click, and now it's going to do that. Well, what about my Y? Right now it's currently -9. So you're not going to see a huge change here. So I'm going to set my Y. Oops. Set my Y to 0. So just have to double click and it will change the cat. So as I mentioned, very small minor change there. And you can see X is 0 and Y is 0. So I can change this X to 100, double click, and you can see that how that's changed. And Y, let's say it's going to be -100, so it should be going down. And there you go. So we can keep playing with those values. If you'd like to have your X and Y on one line, there's also this block here. And you'll see that we have the numbers 22 and -9. I'm going to get rid of that for a moment. And I'm going to move the cat. And once I release the cursor, my placement here with my X and Y for this sprite, 6 and -16, is actually the values that are already set in this right here in this script. So this is fantastic. So if I want the cat to be here for my X and Y, I don't have to guess what that location is or type in these values of -94 and 19. It's already done for me. So if I double click on this, of course, that means nothing's going to happen because I'm already there. But let's go back to these set values. Now double click on this, and now I'm going to go back to that location. All right, so let's say I would like to have a better visual of my X and Y. They actually have a background that helps us with this. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to Other. So I went to the backgrounds. I clicked on the images. And you can see under Other, we have the XY grid. So here's our XY grid. And fantastic. So keep in mind here, it says backdrops right here. So that's why it may look a little bit odd to you. But I'm going to go back to the scripts. This is still here, my background. And I want to make sure it looks like, wow, look at this area, my scripting area. It doesn't have anything here. So I need to go back looking at my stage. It's like, well, okay, that makes sense because I had the stage selected. So I'm going to click on my sprite and I go back to my coding. And now you can see if I set X to 100 and my Y to -100, if I double click on this, you can see first I move to 100 and my Y to -100. Now it's kind of hard to see that we're actually in this location, but it all depends on the center point of the sprite itself. So to help us with that, I'm going to look at costumes. And if I click on this, this shows me where my center point of the sprite is. This is really important to understand for different sprites, where if you want it to be in a particular location, you need to understand what's my center point of that sprite. Okay, so that should help you with now how you can locate your sprite in terms of X and Y, how you can move them around. And that's for setting the sprite itself. So I do want to explain one thing before I move on, instead of just a setting and setting, because this is where it's saying, I don't care where you are right now. I want you to move to here and I want you to move to here. But there is a change. Okay, see what happens if I go change X by 10. Let's see if we see much. Okay, a little bit of movement going to the positive direction of 10 from my current location. Let's say I say minus 50. We'll double click and we see it moving 50 pixels to the left. Same idea here for change and Y. They don't have to be attached. And if I go, let's say, to positive 100, remember if we have a positive number here, we should be going up 100 pixels. Let's see what happens. Double click. Sure enough, 100. If I want to go back to where I was on the Y, negative 100, double click, and there we are. Okay? Again, this should help get your idea of how when you're going to be coding things, where are sprites located and how it works with the X and Y coordinates.